666.
Saudi Arabia's crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman, has been appointed prime minister, a post that is traditionally held by the king. A royal decree announcing his promotion from deputy PM and defense minister cited an exception to the basic law. An official told Reuters news agency the move was in line with the king's previous delegation of duties to him. Quote, the crown prince already supervises the main executive bodies of the state on a daily basis, and his new role as prime minister is within that context, unquote. The 37-year-old son of King Salman bin Abdulaziz, 86, is already seen as the de facto head of government for Saudi Arabia. The decree named another of King Salman's sons, Prince Khalid bin Salman, as the new defense minister, and a third, Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman, remains in the key role of energy minister.
Yeah, and Khalid al-Fallah remained as Minister of Investment. It was interesting that they reaffirmed, typically when there's a royal shakeup, they announce new people and they announce who they replaced. They've been relieved of their posts. But this one was a little different in that it was a reaffirmation of a few key posts. Should also note, Richard, when we were talking about this and when this was announced, it sort of was like, to me, it felt like, and this is very simple, but it felt like it was making this like Facebook official. Like this went from de facto to de jure, essentially. What has actually changed on the ground? I mean, you could say a lot, you can say nothing at all, but this doesn't really change what was actually happening. It just gives it more of a formal title. Of course, there's a lot of buzz about this being a move that was taken to sort of shield Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman from prosecution abroad, give him immunity granted in the U.S. and elsewhere as a head of state. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I think people can only really guess if that's true. But I mean, this is also sort of shores up the line of succession in Saudi Arabia. I mean, it just kind of makes it a little bit more official.
Yeah, you're right. It has two parts, and it does. It is a de facto. There is a de facto. Mohammed bin Salman has been head of government, not head of state. And de facto, de jure. I mean, this encoded in law, and it's actually there is precedent. In the 50s, the crown prince was Faisal Saud, and he became prime minister. King Saud remained king. So he ran government operations, and so it's not highly unusual. And it does recognize the facts on the ground. It's also, there's a legal component. I think there clearly is. I mean, in the Jamal Khashoggi's widow filed a civil suit in Washington, D.C. in October 2020, naming, the crown prince. That judge asked the Biden administration to, weigh in on whether MBS should be given sovereign immunity. And the concept of sovereign immunity dates all the way back to the Treaty of Westphalia in 1648. And, basically saying heads of state, you can't sue or try heads of state in other countries. And they gave the Biden administration had until October 3rd to come back with their reading on this. It's clear naming MBS prime minister eliminates that. A prime minister is clearly a head of state and would be considered a head of state. So it's really not a debate anymore. The Biden administration at that deadline said, so they got the news that the change has been made. So the Biden administration asked for another, I think, 45 days. But ultimately, they will come back and say, look, this Mohammed bin Salman is a head of state, and it can't be tried in our courts. So it does, I don't think, people were sort of cynically saying that's why. It's based in reality. He's the acting head of government. It's got precedent. Happened in the 1950s. King Salman's 86 years old. It makes a lot of sense on the ground, and if you're looking at it from a legal perspective, it makes a lot of sense legally as well.
Mm-hmm.